Hello again, everyone. Wanted to talk to you today about this 1949 Dumont TV that I recently purchased. Plan on doing a restoration on this set. A lot of things are going to depend on that. Number one, if the picture tube is okay, because this is a 15-inch model. It's called the Stratford. It's a cabinet style. And these tubes, if it happens to be bad, these tubes are pretty much impossible to find. So that's the number one thing that's going to determine whether we're going to attempt to restore on this set. The Dumont Company was founded in 1931, sold their first commercially available TV in 1939. I'm sure there weren't too many of those sold, but that was their first model. They started the Dumont network in 1942, and it lasted until 1956, and it fizzled out, and then the TV division was sold to Emerson Radio in 1956. That's just a little history of the Dumont. These are coveted by collectors. They were well-built sets. A lot of folks say they were over-engineered, as this set I think has 34 tubes, counting the picture tube. Over 30, I do know that, so I might have to look at the service literature to be sure on that number, but lots of tubes, which obviously makes it a little more complicated to restore, because you got more tubes, more circuitry, more parts to change. The cabinet on this set's in decent shape. It does have some water stains. You can see there and there. And some probably water stains on top there. For 1949, the cabinet really doesn't look that bad. This has a loose channel tuning, and this is a coarse adjustment, and then you got a fine tuning here that moves it slower. These of course were VHF channels 2 to 13, and this also has FM on it. You probably can't make that out because this plastic piece is all faded and discolored. I'm hoping I can find something to put back there. And then you have regular controls down here. It's so faded I don't think you can see what they do, but I know there's a focus and contrast, brightness, on off volume, and then I think this is a mode switch, which is TV, FM, and it also has a phono jack in the back. This has the tuning eye tube. The way that works, you tune it until the eyes meet, from what I can understand. That gives you your best signal, supposedly, when those eyes meet. But we'll talk about that later. There's a Dumont logo. That's just looks to be a water slide that went on top of the finish. So that's easily replaceable. We do have a piece of veneer someone has patched. Looks like they put a piece of wood behind it and just stuck a piece of veneer on, so we can take care of that too. So I'm going to turn it around, and that's not going to be an easy task. This thing weighs probably 125, 150 pounds. But I'm going to turn it around and we'll take the back off. I'll show you the chassis. And I guess I'm ready to go ahead and check the picture tube. I hope it's good news, so we'll see on that. Okay. I'm worn out from turning this thing around. It's so heavy, but here's the rear view. What I found really interesting, this back is just a metal mesh, and it just have it bent where it goes out past the picture tube. That's kind of simple yet neat design, the way they bent that metal. And here's some of the controls here in the back. We got a horizontal, vertical hold, horizontal position, vertical hold, vertical size, vertical linearity, vertical position. Original, looks like original cord. Phonograph power. And there's a phonograph input. Just RCA type jack. That antenna input jack looks to be just an RCA type also. Most of these old sets have twin lead, but not Dumont. They had a RCA jack, and there's actually a horizontal hold control. I think that's a coil. Yeah, it's an adjustable coil that's beside the antenna input. So let me get the back off. We'll look inside. And here's a model and serial number tag. It is a later version of the RA-105 based on that serial number. Alright, here's the main chassis. Loose tuning tuner right there in the very front. You see some tubes there that's mounted on it. Looks like all the tubes are there. There's some different brands. We got RCA, and there's a Kenrad. So there's another RCA right there. So obviously it's been worked on before. I would have expected that. Here's a yoke assembly and the magnet for the centering. This also has an ion trap mounted right here. So that's about all we can see. I think that's a 6-inch speaker. I think that's what it said in the specs. And even got some cobwebs, so that's pretty much normal. This picture tube connection, the anode connection, it's just a button type that pushes down in to the anode on the picture tube. So I think that says Dumont there, but let's get this socket off. Make sure that you're not pulling the base of the tube. That base seems pretty tight. Yes, it is. So, and it is a Dumont tube. So, could be an original, could be a replacement. Alright, have the Syncor CR70 hooked up using the universal adapter. And here's the pin set up on the 15AP4. Filaments are 1 and 12. Cathode is 11. G1 is pin 2 and G2 is pin 10. Of course, 6.3 volts. The bias is 52, minus 52 volts. So here's hoping. And yes, I see a filament. All right, let's set our filaments on 6.3. Bias is on 52 or minus 52. Here we go. Heater cathode shorts is good. G1 shorts is good. Cutoff. Wow. Cutoff at pegged meters, so that is excellent. And cutoff we set in the little black box there. Emission, we are good. It is moving around a little because the tube's waking up. That cutoff's changing, so I had to readjust it till it kind of settles down. Sometimes that takes a few minutes when the tube hasn't been on for a good while, and I'm sure this one hasn't. But that cutoff continues to raise, so that's a good sign. Life test. No movement at all, so this tube checks excellent. There's a label on it, but I can't see it with the chassis in, so it's at the very bottom. By testing so well, quite possibly it has been changed, but that's okay. I'm not worried about that as long as it's a good tube. So that's a look at the Dumont 1949 model RA-105 15-inch teleset. We'll be attempting a restoration on this set. Of course, I'll be videoing that, so look for those videos in the future. See you next time. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, and we'd love it if you would subscribe to our channel. Thanks.